And welcome back. Today we are having a very special guest on. We're talking about community building, and how to manage a community. I'm Levi.
I'm Jacoby.
And I'm Joe.
And this is The Thought Vessel. Welcome to the show. As I said, of course, we have a very special guest. We're talking about how to build a community and how to find a community within the magic space. No other better person to bring on for this type of question than our very own Bobbie-Christine.
Hello. Yes. I'm so happy to be here. Woo! I'm going to cheer for me. Yay.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Self-cheer. Fantastic. Bobbie, how's it going?
Right as she took a drink.
It's going extremely well. All things considered. I'm feeling good. I had a major battle that continues a little bit with cancer last year. The latter part of the second half of last year essentially was dedicated to having surgery and undergoing a rigorous chemotherapy. So here in March, I am in recovery mode from all of that. But I'm doing well. I'm doing well enough that I was able to go to MagicCon Chicago a couple weeks ago, and we're really in our comeback era. So I'm doing good.
Well, because cancer.
Amen.
There we go. I'm glad to hear we're at least in our comeback era here. So we'll kind of jump into it here. Let's go ahead and start with kind of your magic origin story. Like, where did you first hear about magic? When did that kind of spark ignite? How did this kind of all begin for you?
Yeah, there's like a few mini chapters that lead up to one great story of like my magic journey. The first was I was a small child, too small to know how to play the game. But my dad had cards, and I saw an avatar of Might, which I believe is from Prophecy, and this big green Goliath of a creature just enraptured my imagination. Still to this day, just like one of the coolest cards that I think there are. So I became a green player without knowing it when I was like in my single digits. And then it was when I was 15 and I inherited a giant box of Shadowmoor, Eventide, and Lorwyn from my uncle. And just having that box and learning the rules and blah, 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 that was really when the spark like super ignited, and I was playing with all these Lorwyn cards. I had an elf deck. I had a Kithkin deck. I did have a goblin deck, but it wasn't good. I didn't like it as much as my elf and Kithkin deck. That was the first chapter was the Avatar of Might. The second chapter was Lorwyn. The third chapter was when I got a starter deck kit, Izzet versus Golgari from Return to Ravnica.
I remember those.
Yeah, the starter decks. And I was Golgari, and my best friend was Izzet. And from that day forward, I was a Golgari girl for sure.
Is your best friend still playing Izzet?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, he's got a Rutha deck. Don't let Rutha get to late game. Yeah, don't trust Izzet, first of all, period. But yeah.
Rutha,
my soul.
Don't trust the people who want to do the science. They're going to do the science to you.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, I will commence the science myself.
I will be there with you. But also a Rutha deck is like legit.
She's so cool. She's underplayed.
Absolutely. Kind of jumping in here. So you talked about Golgari kind of being your favorite colors here. What would you say is your favorite deck, or kind of that signature deck of yours?
I have evolved into a commander player, obviously. I play commander. I hopped in 2017 with the Dragon Precon, and I've had a deck define me differently throughout the eras, but the most recent era and the deck that stood the test of time is definitely my Kadira Caller of the Small deck. If I'm allowed to say I have a signature deck, I'm definitely going to go with Kadira. I've got like professional authentication of that being my signature deck. EDA Trek, actually, they put out a podcast. One of their episodes was 100 decks, 100 content creators. And I didn't expect it at all. But halfway through that episode, I hear my name and they're like, and next up is Bobbie-Christine with her Kadira Caller of the Small deck. And so it really made it bona fide that I get to have a signature deck, and that it's definitely Kadira. Kadira is from one of the Baldur's Gate sets, and she basically fills the board with bunny tokens. She multiplies them on combat damage. So you have 4, then you have 8, then you have 2 trillion.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my signature deck.
Bun stonks.
So no one gave you any heads up you were going to be in that video?
No, not at all. I was a very, very pleasant surprise. And when the video first came out, I was like, oh, they didn't reach out to me. So I'm definitely not going to be in this. So I genuinely expected not to. And then I heard them say my name. I was like, oh my God. I was like, what do y'all think is my signature deck? And I must have played it against the EDA Trek guys at a command fest somewhere, or at least posted about the deck enough to where they were like, well, clearly she's crazy about the bunnies.
Yeah, they probably just hung out with you some and then went, Bobbie should be in here. What should we put? Yeah, something bunnies.
Yeah, honestly, that's definitely correct.
When in doubt, bunnies out. With that moving forward here, so obviously between the bunnies and elves, a lot of go wide strategies.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of definitely building up a type. Go wide, very difficult to deal with in Commander because even just trying to send anything on crackback, just having a nice wall of blockers in the way could definitely be tough. Kind of moving into the community side of things, because the longer you're in this game, the more you learn about the different people in Magic and the communities. If you're willing to go and look for it, you can very easily find it. You are credited to kind of founding and holding two different communities, the Bobbie-Christine and Birds of Paradise. And just kind of talking a little bit here about each of them. So let's kind of start with the Bobbie-Christine. How did that group come about?
The Bobbie-Christine originally was my own private Discord server for like my followers when I started streaming Commander in 2020. And it evolved over it's been 5 years. Oh my gosh. It evolved over the years into not just being my server, but rather a larger community server. And the way it evolved into that was I recognized how many Commander spell table streamers that there were. And I recognized that we all share a very, very similar audience, if not just the same audience. And so what I thought was, well, we're doing ourselves a disservice by splitting up this audience into a dozen different Discord servers. Like this Commander creator has their own, this creator has their own, this creator has their own. If one person wants to guest on those 3 Commander streams, they have to join 3 different Discords. It just gets so muddy. It's just Discord is a mess. And if you spend a lot of time on Discord, you know that Discord is a mess. So I wanted I wanted a solution.
Definitely serviceable for what it is.
Right. But the solution that I went for was to invite other Commander spell table streamers like myself under one roof. I said, hey, maybe we can retire some of these other servers and just have this, give our audience, our shared audience, one spot to be and one spot to be a community and to talk to each other and for us to promote our content. And a lot of people took to the idea and it grew from there. I invited the Filthy MTG Casuals, Cardboard Combat, lots of friends, Benji the Brewer, and we kept adding people to this day. Most recently, we added Grim Tutors, the Steel City, Steph and Brad. It's an ongoing experiment and a safe space for Commander players. One thing about the lobby I've been on a little rant here, but the last thing I'd love to mention about it is that it's, of course, very LGBT forward. So it's healthy and I'm really proud of it.
From the outside looking in, let's just say you had a person listening to the show that was looking to possibly join the Bobbie-Christine. Kind of upon entering, what should they expect to find?
They can expect to find a community that wants to play Spell Table Commander. I think that's always going to be the heart of it. No matter what, I want the Bobbie-Christine to be a spot where if someone feels like they just want to play some Spell Table Commander, they could come join this Discord and find really great, really kind people to play with. Aside from the community aspect, there are a total of 15 content creators / content groups who have their own sections and who take part as creators in the Bobbie-Christine. So I think a lot of the people who like to play Commander, a lot of them can respect like a chill vibe of, oh, I'm like working on my homework, but I have this spell table game on Twitch also going on. And so if you're just looking for those Commander chill gaming vibes, we have creators dedicated to those vibes and dedicated to the ecosystem of just getting to enjoy Magic the Gathering together.
And each one of them is just a treasure unto themselves.
Yes, absolutely. We brought some really amazing creators on. I will refrain from just going down and listing every single one of them, but shout out to all of them.
Yeah, that's definitely amazing to see. Is there particular spaces where if you have someone coming in like, oh, I really just want to try to get a game with Bobbie at some point, is there a way to like kind of request something like that?
That's a good question. I have been streaming a little less, but when I get back to playing more Commander as I work through my recovery, the best way is definitely going to be game days. I love to host game days, usually on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday. And literally on a game day, I will just fire up the spell table, throw out the link, first come, first serve. Come join me and let's just play some Commander. So I got a game day coming up in 2 Sundays that I would love to play with anybody who shows up.
I know that's how I first played with you and first met you was through one of those game days when we just sat down. I played my deck and,
That's so cool.
Surprised she's still playing with you now.
you know, no, she does still say that Cody should burn.
Well, I will never trust a Cody deck, and you can't blame me for not trusting a Cody deck.
I mean, that's fair. I haven't given it the best reputation.
He can blame you. He's entitled to his entirely wrong opinion, but he can blame
Jacoby from the top rope out of nowhere.
I know. I got RKO'd real hard there.
Maximum
Listen.
RKO.
If I'm entitled to my shit wrong opinion, so are you.
That's fair.
I only have right opinions, so I wouldn't relate.
Listen, I want to flip coins, cast spells, and I want them to fail because it's funny. It's a bad opinion to have. Am I entitled to it? Yes.
Or,
You can even put it on a podcast. Moving forward here from Live Scene, you also have the Birds of Paradise organization. Kind of give me a rundown. What is the Birds of Paradise?
The Birds of Paradise is also a Magic the Gathering group. I'm very Magic the Gathering. I mean, obviously. But this one is very specifically focused on women and marginalized inclusion. The Bobbie-Christine is naturally LGBT forward, but the Birds of Paradise is dedicated to being that space for women and femmes and non-binary and the people that we know it deeply that are our allies. That's what the Birds of Paradise for. That Birds of Paradise started as just a group chat of 8 girls like 3 years ago. And that also has evolved and evolved and evolved over time from a group chat of 8 girls to a roster of over 40 birds. And we love to show up at events. We've done several events. At those events, we have a safe space to come and play Magic the Gathering. We have one of the early on in the days, one thing we would do is we would have sparkly table mats so that when you look across the convention floor and you see a sea of black tables, you'll notice one of those tables is sparkly. And you're like, well, that's the table where the ladies and the gays are. So Birds of Paradise is can hopefully continue to be a beacon for members of the community who feel differently, who have needs in their pronouns, who don't fit into the mold of what this hobby traditionally is. Birds of Paradise can hopefully be a beacon for those people.
and off in the distance, you can just hear it, the clacking of the fans.
The clacking?
Yeah. When you clack a fan, like the hand fans, you just let it flick out and it clacks.
I have
Like
one of those.
you know when the person walks into the movie, they're being dramatic with it, and they just start fanning themselves. Oh my, what we have here, that's clacking the fan.
Yeah.
If I could summarize Birds of Paradise, I'd summarize it like this.
Yep.
Yeah, there
it
you
is. There's the clack.
Okay, here we go. Did I get it on the podcast? Perfect. With these different communities, obviously, there's a lot of positives that you mentioned, especially in a community. There's a lot of very smart, very opinionated, strong-willed people. I'm sure there are some negatives that come about too. So, like, what are some struggles or setbacks you might have had with these type of communities?
Sure, there will be some. So the reason I can sit here and I can confidently say that the Bobbie-Christine and the Birds of Paradise are like accepting, warm, welcoming places, I'm able to have the confidence in saying that because it takes a lot of work to make sure that's the case. And the work that is probably the toughest and the biggest struggle is dealing with, I don't even want to say dealing with, but confronting situations when it comes to people who are not being conducive to the environment that we're looking for. The very, very obvious one is if anybody is anti-LGBT or if anyone is the kind of person who's commenting on free magic, talking about how women are taking up too much space, the real obvious kind of negative energy in that can be in the underbelly of the magic community, we don't have any of that. We don't welcome it. We stamp it out the moment we see it. If you're not open to being accepting to all people who play Magic, to women, to gay people, to transgender people. You're not welcome in these spaces. It's very simple, and that's what makes them safe. The real difficult part is when you get people who are in the community, who do accept, LGBT people, who are very respectful, but are also bringing a very difficult antisocial energy, or are making people uncomfortable with what they talk about, or how they go about talking about it. I think a go-to example is maybe someone hates Universes Beyond. And like, I get having a passionate feeling about Universes Beyond, but if you're going to be in one of these communities and like the only thing you're contributing is how much you think the new set is dumb, or that these reskins are so bad, or that you wish, oh, I just wish Magic was what it used to be. I wish Universes Beyond is stupid, blah, blah, blah. There are people who can't like contain that sort of negativity. And those cases, the cases that aren't so cut and dry, the cases where I have to message somebody and ask them to alter their behavior for the greater good of the community, those are definitely like the biggest struggle when it comes to maintaining a healthy ecosystem for a community.
You try to at least correct the behavior before just starting booting people. So you kind of give off warnings. I'm sure there are some times that something is egregious enough. You're like, okay, just see you later. But
Oh yeah,
usually benefit the doubt.
I refuse not to have some grace and some understanding, to the point where I attempt a conversation first every time, for sure.
I'm sure there's a lot of very strong opinions. This is definitely a strange time in Magic. With this is the first year in which Universes Beyond is becoming standard legal. Half the sets that are being released are no longer Magic IP. This is definitely a weird kind of in between where I'm sure that there's a lot of people in the community that feel a little uneasy because they don't know what 2027 is going to look like. At the end of the day, these are all Magic cards and you're able to play them, but there are concerns in the community. I think one that I've heard a lot of right now, and I'm sure you've seen it too, is we're getting the Final Fantasy set with the precons going up for about $100 a piece, and you're having the packs going up at really high prices. It's a quote unquote premium product due to the third party IP, but it's a standard legal set and standards extended, and just it seems like it's just making the game a little bit more difficult to access for everybody.
Yeah, it is a bit more volatile. My brother wanted to get a collector box of Final Fantasy, and when it was announced and he was going online to get one, he was like, okay, guess that's not happening. Never mind.
Your brother has a ally in Jacoby.
Uh-huh. It's
Uh,
absurd.
The grumbles.
All the
Tell him how
grumbles.
absurd it
Wizards
is.
has never slapped me in the face so absolutely disrespectfully until they did this to me with Final Fantasy. My rage is unbeknownst to the universe, but it boils.
Yeah.
It seems like you healthily contained that rage. And when it comes to these communities that we're fostering, as long as you're not putting that rage and that anger directly upon your fellow community members,
Oh,
I think you're doing a good job.
never. That's a terrible idea. But that being said, it's important to have, in any community, it's really important to have a level of discretion with the things that you dislike and do like, and understanding that no matter how much you dislike something, it is not your objective role in life to tell other people how much you hate it and why. You're
Or to
allowed
dislike
hate
it too. They're like, you should hate it too.
Yeah, no. You are entitled, like I have said earlier, and I will continue to say, you are entitled to your shit opinion, but it is still your shit opinion and no one else's.
And especially since that recently happened with our local LGS, where somebody, in fact, said that the SpongeBob secret lair was a step too far for them, and that they were going to be just coming around less, never pushing that opinion on other people, but it certainly disenfranchised them from continuing the game.
And I think this is a hobby at the end of the day, something that you're doing for fun. So you have the right and autonomy to be involved or uninvolved as much as you want. It might be that they want to look at other formats that maybe don't have the Universes Beyond. There's a lot of different things out there. I'm sure at some point somebody might come out with a non-Universe Beyond type of format just to give someone that aesthetic if they're looking for that type of thing. But I think that there's a lot of things to it. But I think the main issue comes down to it's a lot easier to point at a problem than to propose a solution
Yeah.
in the internet space, where it's a lot easier to criticize than say, like, this is what I would do. Because if you say, this is what I do, now I'm putting myself in a vulnerable position versus just saying, like, oh, this is bad. I'm sure even in your communities, you're seeing a lot of that where it's a lot more criticism than actually like, here's what I think that we should do to resolve this.
Yeah, and to build on that kind of ideology and that topic there, I think it's crazy that we as a fandom, a community, a group of people and individuals who play this game, we have a lot of interesting dilemmas for things like the show we do, the Am I the Archenemy and such, where people will want to pose the problems and they want solutions, but they're not either capable or willing to come up with a solution. They want that to come from somewhere else. What is your take in your community if you have people who present you problems but don't actively coexist with you to seek a solution?
Gosh, that's a great question because that is a phenomenon where it seems that the only thing that a person wants to do is to be angry and is to have an issue with something. Definitely there's like a large window of grace where maybe this person will get over it. So first there's a window of grace, but when that window passes and they keep bringing that sort of negativity and then other people are starting to mention, hey, this person like kind of won't stop the hate train a little bit. Hate train's a little dramatic, but even you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
that's really difficult. The solution at a certain point is, well, my solution at a certain point is to eventually message that person directly and tell them. I've done this a few times. It's going back to the struggle. It's probably one of the toughest parts about being a community leader is to message this person directly and to explain to them, I understand this certain thing upsets you, but what you're bringing to the table is affecting the community environment. You're essentially making people feel bad, and this community is about having fun. So I'm talking to you now and requesting that you can alter this behavior. Please do so. And if it just doesn't change, at the end of the day, that's what makes it one of the biggest struggles, is because in order to ensure that you have a healthy ecosystem and a healthy community, some people got to go. It's not Rainbow's utopia land. Everybody's going to get along there. You're going to run into some people who sort of are in that mental bubble of negativity that they can't pull themselves out of it. And they put that on the community and they put that on other people. So I find the solution is to talk to them directly and to ask them to change their behavior, which is very blunt and very difficult, I'll be honest.
I'm sure confrontation is never a super fun thing to have to deal with, especially as frequently as I'm sure you have to. It can be necessary for the growth of the community.
It's one of those things where one of the biggest things that you can find when somebody is having an issue is usually one of two paths that I have seen, which is, would you want an answer to the solution or do you just want to vent? It's one of those fine lines that you have to figure out which one is which, because there are, in fact, people on both sides.
Transitioning a little bit here. So let's just say I wanted to kind of start a community. Maybe it's something like I want to make a community for people that are trying to brew fringe CDH decks and want to collaborate together to try to make something viable. Where would you start on trying to create something from the ground up?
Interesting. I know what you mean by ground up, but my solution and my advice is essentially not to start from the ground up. I don't mean this in a bad way, but if you've got an idea, you're not the first one. None of Commander community was not my idea. When I jumped onto the scene, there were tons of streams already. So if what you're passionate about is something you want to start creating content for, I would say don't start from the ground up. I would say seek out the communities that already have put these things into motion. If you're into Fringe CDH, I'm not in the Fringe CDH community, but I know damn well that there is going to be one. There's CDH servers. I'm sure there's, in most CDH servers, I can only imagine that there's a section for Fringe builds because that's what people want to do. So if someone is looking to get into Commander Spell Table, for example, I wouldn't really say, well, just go live and good luck. No, I would say join the community of Cardboard, join the Lobby Pristine. Essentially what I'm saying is join a server where the ecosystem already exists and the infrastructure already exists for people to come together to play Commander Spell Table. And from meeting those people and from joining those communities, that's where you can make genuine connections. And that's when you can genuinely build what you're trying to do out from something that already exists.
So kind of like the idea of build a comb, not a hive, right?
A comb, not a hive. Yeah, because a comb has the infrastructure available to you,
Yeah,
right?
you're building on a platform. It exists and you're part of everything, but you didn't just start the thing. You're being an additional part of it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jacoby
Yeah.
with the honey puns.
Out of nowhere. Speaking a little bit on Commander gameplay, you've actually been on a couple of different Commander gameplay shows here on YouTube. You were on Decked Out, and then you also did Shuffle Up and Play. Well, let's kind of start with Decked Out. Like, what was your experience going on to Decked Out?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, yeah. Aside from building communities, I'm a little content creator girly myself. And one thing I pride myself on is doing live Commander gameplay in a way that is really good for content. So I've been able to prove that I'm a force of good recorded gameplay. If you watch game nights, you'll see what I mean. Like everything they do is so that the audience can absorb the game in a way that's like not too complicated or confusing, or having as straightforward of a game plan as possible that's still interesting but isn't going to make everything get lost in the sauce. So the Decked Out crew invited me out. They said, come play Commander with us. And I said, oh, okay, you got it. They're about 1 hour drive away. So the lovely Veggie Wagon, who's on the show, came and picked me up and we headed out. And I showed up at their awesome little Decked Out studio. And it was just a breeze. I don't know. There was like almost no hiccups. It's just a lovely time. There's a few logistics in a live recording process that you got to keep your mind of. They're like, please stop flicking your cards. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Broke my habit of flicking my cards. Broke my habit of putting my hand down on the table because that disrupts the editor's process of the overhead view. So there's a few nitpicks here and there, and they're essential nitpicks that you got to pick up. But recording with the Decked Out crew is a dream. I love Nerd Girl. I love Veggie Wagon. Airball is a delight. 10 out of 10 experience, no complaints. I intend to rejoin them in the future as well.
At the time of recording, I think you actually had one that recently came out for the International Women's Day.
Yes! Oh, we had an all-ladies pod with Cbex, MTG Nerd Girl, Bella from Girls Play TV, and myself. I cannot help but be overjoyed, but extremely self-conscious about that episode. My head is so bald from freshly recovering from chemotherapy. It still obviously hasn't grown very much, but in that recording, I'm like bald basically, which is fine. You know, it's not. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just on a personal level, I'm like, oh gosh, it's hard not to like feel a little insecure.
Kind of like how the professor was when he had to shave his head.
Yes, I forgot about that. He hated that.
Because it didn't feel like him. Just like being bald is likely, you're not feeling yourself.
I can embrace it. I can be cool and like this is who I am, and that's okay. I can be strong about it, but it's never gonna be who I like want, who I am. You know what I mean?
And then I'm sure that it was a different setup entirely, but with the Shuffle Up and Play experience too, because that's on the other side of the country, and that's a bit of a higher budget. So I'm sure that one was a bit different than the Decked Out show.
Yeah, there's the Shuffle Up plays the top of the line. There is no finer treatment for live Commander recorded gameplay than Shuffle Up and Play having you out. What an absolute dream and an absolute delay. I'm gonna try not to sound like I'm just brown nosing. I'm trying not to sound like I'm just sucking up. But if Brian invites you to play Shuffle Up and Play, then he's gonna treat you with the utmost respect. He's gonna make sure that you're comfortable. He's gonna make sure you have a good time before the recording. He's gonna make sure everyone comes together, has a great time after the recording. The editor team, just top notch, awesome group of guys. Shuffle and Play rocked. I wanna go back.
I bet that's a dream.
A little moment of braggadociousness. I was also on Tabletop Jocks and I was on Scry Babies. I love
So you've been
playing
around a
live
little
Commander.
everywhere.
I do. It's playing Commander recorded live with amazing people is one of my passions.
How long does a normal recording for one of these episodes take usually?
Just guessing off the top of my head, probably 2.5 hours per game. Like a regular game of Commander could be an hour and a half. Add technical checking, add camera fixes, add thinking about the editor experience, all that stuff probably adds like another hour to it. It's like a Commander game, but like extra long for all kinds of reasons. So I'd say about 2.5 hours average.
And
Those editors are miracle workers. They're amazing.
Thank you.
Joe appreciates the compliment. Well, one thing we wanted to talk about as well in your recovery process here is we do have a stream coming up at the time of this release. Joe, did you have the specific details on that?
Yeah, so specifically, it's just going to be the end of April. So by the time that this episode airs, you should be seeing a lot of hubbub from Onion Bug, Amanda, doing a charity stream for Bobbie-Christine.
So this will help with any of the medical expenses as we see coming up, and we'll try to provide any links or information as we can in the show notes of this episode, just to kind of go over, give you the opportunity to watch some amazing Commander players duke it out and get a chance to possibly contribute when you can.
Shout out to the lovely Onion Bug, member of the Bobbie-Christine and of Birds of Paradise. We love you, Onion Bug.
Right on the bug bop.
In both communities. We'll end on this here as well. So as far as being involved in the Magic communities and different gameplay shows and just kind of being around the space in general, what would you say if you were trying to create welcoming environment for people, whether it's a Discord or Facebook group, whatever it might be? What is one key piece of advice that you'd want someone to take away from this episode?
A key piece of advice to leading a community, it's kind of tough. I don't think it's something that can be learned. Maybe it can. Well, maybe it's something that can be learned. I think your sense of selflessness and your sense of being there for others has to be sincere. If deep down you want to build a community so that you can get eyeballs and that people can follow you, and if it's about your stream and your success, then you can focus on doing that. You can focus on you being a content creator and you can focus, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You can focus on where you want your stream to go and run that lone wolf project, which is completely a valid option. But that's kind of mentality is just not going to create a situation or a community like the Bobbie-Christine or the Birds of Paradise. I'm trying not to sound like egoic or like full of myself, but I
don't
trust.
think you sound egoic.
I appreciate that. I trust myself so implicitly to always come from a place of selflessness and come from a place of trying to make a good space for everybody that's not just about me, that I'm often like the only person I would trust to be in these positions. Sometimes when I sit back and I think, if something happened, who would I hand this off to? That's a hard question to answer. That's really difficult. I'm like, I don't know who I trust as much as I trust myself to be coming from this sincere place. So just really sit with yourself and be okay with either answer of where you're coming from. Is this content about me? Am I trying to lift myself up, give myself a livelihood, get the views and get the clicks and make this something that I can live off of or make a name for myself? That's fine. Just know that I don't think ever going to be the energy necessary to lead a community and to give other people a home. I didn't go to school for any of this, so I might be wrong here or there, but I guess that just that integrity. Why are you doing this is incredibly important, and answering that question is gonna help you find what kind of community you should build, whether it's self-focused or community-focused.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us on the Thought Vessel today, Bobbie-Christine.
I'm so grateful. I feel like I ranted a lot, and I hope it was legible.
Oh, no, you're fine. You, in fact, filled all of these vessels filled with your thoughts.
I appreciate y'all so much. I'm at a place in life where I am trying to share all the things I've learned. I'm trying to convey. People do look up to me, and it's a weird thing it's an interesting position to be in where people look up to you. So I'm trying to do my best to convey how I got to a place where they look up to me as best as I can.
And that's beautiful.
Well, we definitely appreciate your time. And to the listeners out there, We're going to have show notes as far as information on where to find that stream. Definitely check it out. Donate if you can. Anyone have any final thoughts before we send us off?
I truthfully wouldn't trust a school trying to teach you how to be a community builder outside of maybe a business school. But like, even then, that's a little sketch.
You're right. I mentioned like, oh, I didn't like go to school for this, but I mean, like, who goes to school to start a gaming community, right? I don't know. So
You never know. Maybe you'll have like there'll be a streaming major in college in the future.
totally.
Well, okay, but if it's at like an accredited university, that's different than, oh, hey, come join my streamer academy that I have in the back of a strip mall. No, that doesn't seem trustworthy. That seems like a scam.
Something like that
Tuition is
definitely already
$1,000
exists.
in my meme coin.
Yes.
All right,
And
well,
then
All right. Well, this has
Only
been all the time
retention.
we have. Thank you so much for joining on. Jacoby, do you have something you wanted to say?
No, it's okay. I just want to be mad about Final Fantasy Peaks at a premium.
Jacoby
We'll have plenty of more
continues to be the big man.
plenty more to talk about Final Fantasy, considering that Dragonstorm still hasn't released yet.
Oh my
And we're
gosh.
still getting Final Fantasy spoilers. But this has been Thought Vessel. I hope you had a wonderful time listening. I'm Levi,
I'm Jacoby.
And I'm Joe.
and this has been Thought Vessel. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Take care.
Bye.
And stay excellent to one another.
Or don't. I'm not your dad.